Word on the StarCraft street has it that this Protoss player is rapidly improving once again. As of me making this video, he's currently in the top 10 of Grandmaster League on the Korean server. And he's become specifically very good at hunting down Zergs. So today we're gonna have a look at two best of 3 series featuring none other than Trap, a Protoss player who historically has been incredibly good. However, he had to go and do his mandatory military service, and well, generally speaking, it takes them a little bit of time, the pro gamers, before they get back to their previous level. But from what I understand, in the month or two or so that Trap has been back at this point, he's gotten very good very quick. Problem is his opponent. This man is considered to be the highest ranked Zerg, I was almost going to say Protoss, the highest ranked Zerg player from South Korea. You know him, you love him, as none other than Dark. Dark right now is on absolute fire. And he's a bit of a trickster, going for the gold base first right here on El Sayani. Immediately throwing a bit of a curveball. So I'm not entirely sure what to expect from Trap, but I had a quick look at the statistics. Ooh, all right. At the tournaments that in the tournaments that he's played so far, are we gonna go Forge? Yes, we are. Gonna go for a cheeky little cannon rush in the first game. Looking at the statistics right now, Trap's Zerg versus Protoss is his best matchup. His PvT and his PvP are looking pretty solid as well, but for some reason his PvZ right now seems to be his very best, even though historically that wasn't necessarily the case. Either way, first game I see Trap play against a Zerg in quite a while starts off with a cannon rush. It wasn't something he was just going for though. It wasn't really a scheduled cannon rush. Oof. Cute little play right there with the probe, by the way. That probe was fully walled in, but because there was no other place for it to go, it managed to squeeze itself past that pylon. Ultimately, though, everything gets cancelled. He doesn't know if there's going to be any... We actually just let it finish. Huh. That is really curious. Anyways, ultimately, there weren't any drones coming from the main base to try and deny the photon, but that base is super dead. This is going to be the most expensive queen that Dark has ever produced. Like, it's 300 minerals for the hatch, 50 minerals for the drone that turned into the hatch, and then 150 for the queen. That's very expensive. I guess you've got to subtract a little bit over here. I like that here for Trap. Canceling that second photon cannon does save him a little bit. Because I think that this cannon is going to be able to finish the job. It's pretty obvious here that Dark is not trying to do a whole lot about this. Okay. I wasn't going to add those numbers together, by the way. You can add the numbers yourself. I have done many maths. That's how you say that, right? Oh, we're actually going to try and hold on to it? Anyways, I've made myself look like a fool in many math situations over all the years that I've been making content for. It's now a bad idea. Never do math while you're making videos or content or live streams or whatever. It doesn't matter. Math on the internet, completely off limits. There is no way Dark is going to be able to hold on to that base. He's trying, though. He gets one of the adepts. Fair enough. There is a spine crawler. Nah, this base is super dead. I think the queen is going to die as well at this rate. Yeah, no, that hatchery dies. He could retarget onto the queen, but he's busy microing the adepts over here in the meantime. And right from the start, this is a very chaotic match. Well, you do have to be careful, though, as Protoss in these scenarios. He's decided to go straight Twilight Council, so there is no Stargate or anything like that on the back of this. If these Zerglings can actually finish off the Cybercore before the Warp Gate research finishes up, this entire game is flipped upside down. Ooh, it's gonna be real close. Warp Gate is finishing. Nah, I think he's gonna finish it. Ay. This is already a Dark game to a T. Okay. So immediately, though, a good skill check here as well for Trap. It's a very difficult situation right now to maneuver your way out of, right? So Dark obviously is somebody who we see do very well in these super chaotic situations. All of the timings right now that you know are thrown out of the window. Trap, however, maybe still a little bit rusty after coming out of the military. How exactly is he going to proceed right now in this situation? I think it's safe to assume that this is an advantage for him, but capitalizing on this advantage is quite tough. Apparently what we're going to do is effectively a 2-base DT rush. He's going 2-base Dark Templar. There's also Charge in the Twilight Council, so this could, I guess, be DTs together with Zealots. We could also morph a couple of the Dark Templar into Archons, but normally if you go Archons with Charge slots, you would go for a Templar Archives instead of a Dark Shrine. So maybe it's just to test the waters with the DTs first, and then, I guess, turn it into like a 2-layered all-in. Because there's no third Nexus, and Dark is checking for this right now as well. Here go the Zealots, or here go the Zealots, rather. What are we gonna achieve with them? Well, they get their nice little speed boost. The Zealot leg enhancement. There's no Prism, by the way. So this group of Zealots marching around is gonna make it very easy for Dark to decide what to do. He's already gone for a Spore Crawler at home. Okay. Gold base is once again building for Dark. He also finished a base over at the blue mineral line that is normally considered to be the third. Lair starts up right now to get a form of mobile detection, but this Spore Crawler is going to be his detector for the time being. So Dark is anticipating a push, but at the same time he's also making drones. Here's the DTs coming in. Yeah, and this is what I was a little worried for, right? So this was an advantage for Trap. Right now, I don't really like it that much anymore. Even getting the kill on this base is mostly irrelevant. The gold base is obviously coming up too, and our Zerg is gonna even be able to keep this base alive too. Yep. Massive skill check from Dark. Trap was ahead, but now he's finding himself in a very strange scenario. Not entirely sure how to play this one out. He's now finding himself in a game where, yeah, he's desperate to go into double robo and just make a bunch of stuff. But look at the creep spread already. Next time that Trap moves out across the map, I've got a feeling the creep is going to be touching his third. These tumors are likely going to be heading on over towards the gold base as well, off the Protoss, but at this rate, Trap is never going to be able to get there. Hydra then coming up. Dark's so good in these scenarios, though. It's actually nasty. Like, the fact that he saw that his opponent's third Nexus was late, the fact that he didn't know what was going on inside of that Protoss main, and then decided to make a round of drones at the perfect timing when those Zealots first came across the map, it speaks volumes as to the confidence of Dark in this matchup. Every Zerg player at that point would be sitting at about 40 workers just making mass units, expecting some sort of 2-base all-in. But yeah, Dark apparently looked at it, he's like, nah, I can get away with a round of drones right now, which is very dangerous if it's like a sharp 2-base push. But apparently upon seeing the charge slots, he wasn't all too concerned. So now Trap is playing from behind. At the very least, he's got himself a third Nexus coming up. That's good. The double robo is going to be quite nice as well if he wants to go for a follow-up attack. Immortals are good specifically against roaches. They're not terrible, of course, against Hydras and all of the other Zerg units, but generally speaking, you want to be having them against the roach army of the Zerg in particular. He did just now see that there's been a bunch of Hydras. So yeah, I think a Robo Bay makes a lot of sense. Maybe transition towards Colossi, but the problem with Colossi is that they take a long time to produce. So Trap, even though he probably wanted to go for a follow-up attack, is now forced to play macro again. And strategically, he's just on the back foot all of the time here. Already a significant portion of supply behind. This is leaving the ball in Dark's court, who's looking to put on a bit of pressure. Maybe even go in for the kill with Roach Ravager. And a bunch of Hydras. Hydras are going to be getting their Speedy Boy upgrade in a moment. Ooh, Roach Speed was actually forgotten. That is going to make things a little awkward here for the Zerg. Does he want to commit with slow Roaches against effectively an Immortal Sentry army? Well, he now sees the fourth Nexus coming up at the third. Or at the 3 o'clock position. Roaches and Hydras, both of them slow. Moving on over towards the natural. Reinforcing units are going straight through the center of the map. Okay, this defense has to be on point by Trap. Question is, does he simply have enough? Well, I think he has enough to defend the third, but what about the natural? He's forced to split his units. The Zerg army has gone through those walls there, and he's now going to try and see if he can hunt down the Nexus at the 3. But is this enough? Rather than going Colossi, by the way, it's Disruptors. Makes a little bit more sense because it takes less time to produce. You don't need to upgrade them, and here we go. Keep in mind, there's still no Roach speed. Dark still more than 50 supply up on the opponent, though. The sentries are running low on energy. Dark Templar now being used to kill some of the Zerglings. Battery that's overcharged will get sniped down relatively quickly. Good movement overall, though. Purification Novas. They have been used, but not a ton of damage done. And Trap, despite all odds, does hold on against this Zerg push. Okay. Now suddenly, that creates an opportunity for the Protoss player to potentially go on the offensive. Now, I don't think that time is there just yet. But if he has, like, another few Warpins here, this does look better for him over time. If it's up to Dark, though, this game is still going to end within the next minute or so. Another nice Nova. Immortals here, living up to their name for now. Reinforcing Zealots also do charge at a few of those Hydras. And Dark is pushed back once again. There's a Dark Templar over at the gold base. I don't think Trap actually realized that there was a gold base up until just now. Supply-wise, though, yep. Zork has taken a bit of a nosedive, and Trap, the Protoss here, has managed to stabilize. I would like to see some Archons. I think Archons would be a good addition to this ball. Especially against all of those Zerglings, because you can see right now, this Protoss army is struggling a bit. There's two Archons showing up. Another Nova does grab a few of those Roaches. Fourth Nexus, forced to be reproduced, but Dark is playing all of this off of a relatively small eco. He's making a transition towards Banelings. Nexus gets denied another time. But economically speaking, this hasn't actually been that big of an advantage for Zerg at all. Even though he's been on 4 bases, making a 5th base right now, really the only lead he's got in that department are those golden minerals. So there's a little dive right there in favor of Protoss because that one Dark Templar was distracting some of the mining. But you know what? Trap managed to hold on while being very significantly behind in the supply count. His army was significantly smaller, but much higher tech. And with good control, he managed to stay alive there. I guess also due to the fact that Dark forgot the Roach speed upgrade. I think if he would have had that, that fight would have gone a little bit better for him overall. But he knew about it, and then he still decided to commit. So nicely done by Trap. Managed to hold on in that department, in that fight, but now it's gonna be up to the Protoss player to get some damage done on the other side. And you know what? He's showing up. This gold base is gonna die very rapidly. Dark has decided to not even face that army head on, and instead go for the counterattack. Recall on a large portion of the army, but not all of it, which is very dangerous, of course, here by Trap. Is there enough? Was enough called back home? The rest of the Protoss units are marching back manually. Battery overcharge, though, being used. A lot of shield batteries at the front in general. Photon cannon also adding to the fight. 11 kills on that bad boy. Not bad at all. I think he's actually just done a really good job defending here. Yeah, Dark sort of assumed he was going to be able to bully his way through this game. But every time I glance at the supply count, it's looking better and better and better for Trap. Okay. So, as the dust settles, I may even be calling this a Protoss advantage. Upgrades-wise, he's looking really good. Tech-wise, there's really not much here for Dark. He's got Baneling speed, I guess? So Baneling speed is something that he still has to reveal. He hasn't shown that yet to the opponent. But I mean, the way that Trap has been microing his units up to this point, I think he's gonna be okay against that too. Yeah, it's still right. It's one of those scenarios where you have about half a second to respond, and if you don't do it perfectly, you may just accidentally lose the game. Sonic Storm, though, is going to be added into the mix, and I honestly like that a whole lot better for Trap than Baneling speed for Dark. Here they come. They're going to be rallied across and then probably shift queued towards that third base. And it's very much so up to Trap to try and hold on. Now, he loses the Prism in the bottom left-hand corner, but he did gain the base on the right side of the map once more. Here are the Banelings. This is, by the way, pretty much an all-in here for Dark. He's got a lot of resources, I guess, as far as gas goes, but this is very committed. You can't just make a round of Banelings like this off of 60-something workers and then just throw them away. These need to get something done. Good vision here by Trap. Sees them coming in from a mile away. Storm at this point has finished. Alright, here go the Banelings. Not really much of a reaction yet, although, it was actually just calm and collected. Yeah, just perfect force fields. He just warped in a sentry and then force fielded. The one location that he needed to force field without actually running the probes away very far at all. It's gonna be a Dropper Lord here next. Maybe aiming for that natural mineral line with some of those Banes. Hive coming up for the Zerg player together with a Lurker then, so eventually all the roads do lead towards Lurkers. Trap's army though is looking very dangerous. The High Templar have been accumulating energy for some time. Most of them should have energy for 2 storms very quickly. Bunch of drones end up going down. 1 Dark Templar here being annoying. And just in general, we have some Protoss units running around the battlefield. Dark not on point right here with the Overlord control, so the Stalkers here are just going to be able to pick this off easy peasy. Just like that. Okay, I was a little critical of the way that Trap was playing this after killing the proxy hatch of the Zerg, because he was ahead at that point in time, but he didn't quite capitalize on it. But his follow-up in a, well, I guess semi-normal situation, it's been really strong. Even though he's been playing from behind, he's been doing a phenomenal job in that department. Now, problem is, yeah, there's a very wide open front door here. Trap is just committed onto the creep. Decides to go back home as there's a mass amount of Roach, Ling, Bane going towards the natural expansion. Recall once again used defensively. There's still an Archon left behind. 22 confirmed kills, and he's gonna get some more before he will ultimately die. 29 is not bad at all. A couple of the Banelings here are manually detonated to try and kill those Dark Templar because he doesn't have vision. Force Field is going to prevent the Hydras from going into the main base so far, but the Dark Templar, they were meant to be used offensively because this was basically a Dark Templar rush. They have been more helpful in the base defense, however, in this match. Seismic Spines is on the horizon. That's the ranged upgrade for the Lurkers. There they are, but we still have, of course, those Disruptors. Gets a whole clump of them already. One of the Disruptors did go down, but there's a lot more to take their place. Trap is trying to force the fight right now, using reinforcements to deal with those attacks. The gold base was denied, but of course the same can be said right here for the one of the Zerg. Ling run by at the bottom of the map. The bottom of the map for Trap at least. Not a bad idea, but I just don't see a standing army here for Dark that can take on this army here for Trap. He just doesn't have the numbers. He's got 4 Lurkers and a Dream. Against all of this, you don't even need the Disruptors. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on site Delta. Let's see, Trap. Let's see what happens when you play a quote-unquote normal game. So everything here has been very straightforward. I fast-forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game because it's been a very normal match of Protoss versus Zerg. And because of that, it will also be a Stargate opener for Trap. So he decided to send the probe out across the map very quickly, blocked the natural expansion right here of the Zerg, and Dark was forced to go for the 3rd base as his very first expansion. It's something we see all the time. Now though, Trap gets to play a straightforward game, right? Like he was kind of behind at like minute 4 or so in the previous match. I didn't really love the follow-up. Let's see what he can do when he's playing a very conventional match instead. We do have to make something though. Wow. Wait, what? Wasn't that Stargate finished for some time already? Hello. Okay, well, maybe I'm being a little overly critical. I glanced right at the production tab as the Stargate disappeared off of it, and I didn't see an Oracle in production yet. Okay, we can forgive that 1 second or so. Yeah, I think we can forgive that 1 second. Especially when, you know, we're talking about Dark, who's once more hitting a supply block at 35 out of 36. What's up with this, Dark? Dark, I have seen too many games as of late where you hit a supply block at 35 out of 36. We've seen it against Terran. We're now seeing it against Protoss. Why in the world is Dark consistently supply blocked at 35 out of 36. It's not even a nice supply block, you know? At least drone up to 36 out of 36 at that point. It's a bit funky. Then again, it's Dark. He's been doing this for years. Even though most of the top tier Zergs will not really be hitting any supply blocks until they hit like 200 supply. Very rarely do we see a big supply block. Dark, yeah. Really leveling up over the last few months. He seems to be playing better than he has in a very long time. Even though he's always been a top tier contender in my mind, he's been really good over the last few months. Still consistently making little mistakes in the early game. Anyways, how much damage can the oracles do? We have 2 of them. Glaives on the back of this here for trap. So double oracle rather than a conventional 3, although 2 is not uncommon at all. Third nexus is coming up, of course, as well. 1 drone, 2 drone. That's not too much. If I ever have kids, by the way, this is how I plan on teaching them how to count. We're counting drone kills on the other side of the map. 1 drone, 2 drones, 3 drones, 4 drones. They'll be able to count up to 12. Yeah. Rarely do we see the oracles get any more than that. But to be fair, how often do you really need numbers past 12? Exactly. Okay, so pretty conventional follow-up here for Trap. Good old glaives. It's once again going to be Banelings on the back of this for Dark. Banelings with a relatively late, though, upgrade. Generally speaking, when we see a Ling Bane-based army, that Evolution Chamber gets built a little bit earlier on into the game. At least that used to be the case. I'm assuming this will be melee upgrades, because that's the only thing that makes sense. But usually, if you want to go melee upgrades, you want to have that upgrade done by the time that Blink Stalkers go across the map. And Blink Stalkers go across the map right about right now. Now, it's not Blink Stalkers, but this +1 melee is still at a strange timing. Anyways, again, it's Dark. He can do whatever he likes. The rules don't apply to him. He does need to defend, though, against these adepts, and he doesn't really have the units for him at this point in time. Honestly, this could be GG. A very normal game here by Trap. Like, nothing out of the ordinary whatsoever. He's been in full control of the match. Banelings are desperation plays against these adepts. As long as you split reasonably well, yeah, you find yourself in a really good position. 16 drones. It's gonna be like 17, I guess? No, 16, 17 in total. Fair enough. That is well worth it right here for Trap. Who's in the meantime, of course, on 3 bases. He needs to defend the follow-up attack here for, yeah, from Dark. Dark might actually just be redroning. Now he goes Roachworn. Ay, 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 ay. I kind of feel like this day was coming, though, right? We see Trap just playing a very normal build here. This is something that Dark should be able to defend relatively easily if he were to play a very normal build himself as well. Yeah. But since Dark usually plays a little bit sloppy in the early game, he's now finding himself in this position where he needs to play from behind. Okay. Now, this is not game over yet, though, of course, for the Zerg. He's going to be able to go full Super Saiyan here. This is a curious little move out with the sentries. Trap must have seen that drones were spawning out of the cocoons, because otherwise I don't think he would be moving out across the map right now. If this was mass unit production here from the Zerg, I mean, this army could get surrounded by Ling Bane easy peasy. So he just moved across the map, sniped a creep tumor, put down a stasis ward, and then he goes back home. He's just trying to force a round of units here out of the Zerg player, which means that they're not droning. And mission accomplished. Baneling speed is going to finish, though. It's now done. +2 melee on the back of this, too. Keep in mind that as of, well, quite some time ago at this point, Banelings with +2 no longer one-shot probes. It takes 2 Banelings now to kill 1 probe with +2 melee upgrades. Also with +0 upgrades. Also with +1 upgrades. So long story short, the Banelings don't hit quite as hard. And usually that means keeping your, mineral life, or your mineral line alive is a bit easier. Okay, Trap goes across the map. There's one Immortal in the mix. He doesn't even really need it. So this is Glaives into Blink, which is kind of neat. He gets the kill on the 4th base of the Zerg player, but at the same time, he also had to cancel his own 4th Nexus. I really don't like this play, by the way, very much from Dark in general. So, where you decide to go Banelings before a Roach Warren, you're basically saying, okay, if you decide to do anything out of the ordinary, and I wouldn't even really call Glaive to Depths out of the ordinary, it's quite common, but if you do anything out of the ordinary, you just kind of die. Like, if it's any sort of 2-base, like, you could have a 3rd Nexus with, like, a 2-base push as well, right? Where you just don't really make probes for the 3rd base. If it's any sort of, like, unconventional 2-base all-in, you just kind of lose without a Roach Warren. So Dark cutting a massive corner, and he lost 23 drones because of it. And then he still made a Roach Warren anyways. So I never quite make sense of the skipping the Roach Warren early game. Rarely does it seem to pay off. Like, obviously it's 150 minerals. But I've got a feeling that Dark, if he really needed those 150 minerals plus the cost of the drone, he could just tidy up his early game a little bit and then just make the Roach Warren instead, right? Like, there's definitely little bits of improvement that he could have made to save him. Anyways. Long story short, Dark has managed to drone his way back into it. The only problem is that he's not quite maxed out. Ooh, some nice corrosive biles. Immortal a little. Ooh, those were sexy, dude. That was a very nice set of force field right there from Trap. Okay, now Storm is done. There's something beautiful. Sorry. I love the pinpoint precision with the force fielding into eating all of the balls to the face. There's something really, yeah. That's an interesting play. Perfect micro into just standing around until the balls connect. Anyways, Trap does once again defend here against the Zerg push. And he doesn't really lose a lot of workers in the process. Bit of deja vu from the previous game. You can see that there's still a little bit of improvement here for the Protoss for sure. But like, the highs are very high, right? Like, those clutch force fields, it looks kind of easy, but clicking in the perfect location 4 times is not that straightforward. There's a lot of things that can go horribly wrong. Yeah, considering the man only recently came back, this is looking really good. Banelings are rolling by, but he pulls the probes in time. More Banelings, though, over here at the bottom of the map as well. The probes are running on over in this direction. Still a couple stray Banes, but they do get picked off. 14 workers in total. 1 Baneling still remains. That one will get picked off. In the meantime, we have a Zealot run by. Over at the 9 o'clock position. Banelings at the bottom will be pushed back as well. Trap's army, though, has to be respected. Like, we're talking about a Archon Immortal Sentry Storm Force. Like, this is not a unit composition that Dark can really easily counter with Roach, Ravager, Ling, Bane. He doesn't have Lurkers. He does have Hive, however. Yeah, it's gonna be basically Ravagers and Banelings. I think that will be most of his army. Trap still has this Nexus around, so he doesn't even really need to go for an all-in. If that Nexus would have gone down, and it may very well in the next minute or so, he will be forced to go for some big attack. This is still a very scary army here. Zerg does not have the units to deal with this, I don't think. No. Ravagers are good, but not that good. Like, this is like an early mid-game army for the Zerg going up against a late-game ground army from the Protoss. Oh, that was kind of cool. Dropped off that High Templar in the Corrosive Biles to Storm and then once again pick it up in time. He is losing a Nexus, though. Yeah, this base is going to likely go down. We have a big fight happening in the meantime. Some Storms going down as well. He's gonna go into the natural expansion of the Zerg. Don't mind if I do, says Trap, as he just walks up the ramp. And this is a really difficult position to break for the Zerg. Without Brute Lords, without Lurkers, I don't see how you're gonna get in there. So instead what we have is mostly a counterattack. Some of the Roaches and Lings have managed to run into the natural expansion. Force fields over here at the bottom of the ramp. And Trap is waiting. Is there enough for the Zerg? I don't think so, man. He is running up a ramp into a concave. That is StarCraft 2 101. Usually the exact strat you want to avoid. A lot of balls are connecting, but I think ultimately the Protoss army is just too good. Yeah. Bit of deja vu from the previous game. I want more. I want more traps. Spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner of Amphion. Our next best of 3 series. We're of course looking at our beloved Protoss player. His opponent though this time around. Once again a Korean Zerg, but somebody who goes by a different username. We have none other than Shin. Of course, one of the very best players in the world. Previously, he used to play under the nickname of Ragnarok. And he's considered to be... it's kind of hard to say, right? So the top 3 Zerg from Korea, I would say would be Dark, Solar, and Shin. It's kind of hard to say exactly at what point. Like, Dark is the more confident tournament player. Shin and Solar, like, I don't mean any disrespect, but usually they seem to get eliminated before the grand finals, but they're still, like, you know, absolutely top 4 contenders of any tournament they enter. Sometimes I guess they might even be able to win. So a bit of a different playstyle, of course, from Shin, which is why I'm interested in watching this series too. Shin usually plays cleaner, right? So as chaotic as Dark is, Shin is a lot more textbook. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out here, because that previous game in particular, the one just now on Site Delta, like that was Protoss going for a textbook approach, Dark doing Dark things, and just ultimately falling far behind, right? Now in game number 1, we could see the strength of that strategy from Dark, where he was throwing curveball after curveball after curveball, and even though he was supposed to be behind, he managed to get back into the game. Trap then defended really well, and then ultimately his army was too good. Yeah, I wonder how Trap does against somebody a little bit more textbook. These games, by the way, are from a recent ESL Open Cup. So I did cast the finals as well of this ESL Open Cup, and I saw some people being a little bit confused why Dark didn't make it to the finals. Well, it turns out Dark literally got eliminated in the first round by Trap. Kinda sick. Kinda sick. Gotta be a nice confidence boost. This is, by the way, the next round of that same ESL Open Cup. So first you fight Dark, next you fight Shin. Not somebody who really participates in a lot of the Open Cups. Occasionally he does, but... Alright, should be a Stargate opener once again. Fair enough. And Shin is happily droning up. I feel like Shin is one of those names of a player who doesn't really get nearly as much... Like, I feel like there's not a lot of Shin fans out there. Like, I'm sure they exist. But Shin is genuinely one of the very best. Just, yeah, not really somebody who really gets as much respect, I suppose, as some of the other top-tier contenders. Last year, most notably, I guess, he managed to eliminate Serral from IEM Katowice. That was pretty impressive. Yeah, that was pretty sick. Doing very well overall. I think it's also due to the fact though that he changed his username. Like if you're kind of... I know I've ranted about this many times, but if you're like a very good player, but not quite, you know, the top 5 in the world, changing your username is just kind of difficult. It is just kind of a silly play. So for a while, Ragnarok used to play under the name of Hibam. I think that's how you spell it. Anyways, he used to play under that ID as well. And then ultimately he settled on Shin. Which, by the way, is just his real name. Hibam, I think, is his family name. But anyways. It is an interesting thought process. I know that in the Korean scene, they also use their actual names a little bit more frequently. So in the non-Korean scene, obviously we refer to everybody by their usernames. But from what I understand in Korea, it's a little bit more common to refer to players as their actual username, or like their actual names rather than their usernames. So maybe it's not as big of a step there. Okay, so once again, Twilight Council on the back of this right here for Trap. We got ourselves another Oracle flying around. It's not quite that max specs Oracle control. I feel like max specs consistently micros the Oracles better than anybody else. It's a little floaty, but still getting a good bit of damage done. Yeah, not bad at all. 7 workers for a single adept so far, 10 lings as well. All right, here we go again. Very reminiscent of the Side Delta game. Trap basically doing the exact same build order. Obviously, while that series against Dark was being played, Shin was playing somebody else, so he doesn't know about the strats that Trap literally just executed. Ooh, that was lovely. 10 workers now in total. First wave of adepts. So this is kind of a funky move from Trap. He did that too, just now in the previous game. So he sends out 4 adepts, which gives the opponent a heads up, like, hey, there's adepts out on the map. But he does it before this upgrade is even halfway done. So he's showing his hand, and he's hoping that the opponent then calls the bluff, but then he actually has the hand. Like, the follow-up here with more adepts is kind of funny. He doesn't actually want to lose those adepts at this point in time, of course. Yeah, here we go. Here's the reinforcement. He's trying to deny all of the overlords. And now suddenly Shin is going to have to deal with the adept group. Okay, nicely walled in. That's the Serral defense. Not a way in which Dark would ever be defending, I don't think. Unless he accidentally has the structures positioned in such a way. Yeah, I like this a lot. Serral does this in pretty much every single of his games where he's going up against adepts. Is he gonna commit? He almost has to, because those adepts fall off very hard as the game progresses. But the question is, will he be able to get enough value? I am not convinced. He's trying to target the drones, and he does get 7 of them in total. Grand total of 17 drones killed, though, is super significant. But at this point, there's just not a lot of army here for the Protoss player. He's got a few sentries over at the 3rd. We're gonna need to see some force fields. Okay, just 1? My god, dude, Trap is actually really good with the force fielding. What's kind of cool, though, about those previous games we just watched is that, like, Trap has a couple of low-hanging fruits, right? A couple of easy improvements that he can make that would have made those games, yeah, be more dominant than they already were. So if he tightens up his game just a little bit, which I think he will just do over the next few weeks, just grinding more games, playing more tournaments. Was that a bug? I think he's talking about the sentry being stuck inside of the force fields. One of the observers talking in the observer chat? That's illegal! No! 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 Observer chat! For some reason, I cannot filter observer chat. Yeah, that's what he was talking about. Ay. Well, now that's the only thing we can look at. It's not a bug. Nah. Sometimes it's a little derpy when the observer has... Or, sorry, the sentry has no place to go other than into the force field. Alright, 21 drones down the drain, but obviously no real... Okay, can we stop... Can we stop... I can't talk about the game while trying to read words. It's fine when they're talking in Korean because I don't speak Korean. But as soon as... I can't do the 2 things at the same time, man. Which is funny because StarCraft 2 is literally a game about doing as many things at the same time as possible. But reading and talking is tough. Okay. Right, so what I was trying to say, Trap, he's done a lot of damage on the other side of the map. But he doesn't really have to follow up right now. So when you do damage, but you don't have a follow-up, it doesn't really matter how much damage you've done, because Zerg can just remax again with the workers pretty quick. Obviously, it's still better to deal more damage than less. But if you have no timing attack lined up on the back of it, you can't really capitalize on the advantage you've created for yourself. So yes, Shin lost all those drones, but he also killed all of the adepts, taking the wind out of the sails of Trap, and then he immediately re-droned again. Can feel a little bit unfair sometimes when you play against Zerg, because you put in so much work to try and kill all, like, 24 workers, and then Zerg just holds down the drone button, and ta-da, they're back up to their previous max. The idea is that you have multiple layers to your attacks, and apparently that is what Trap is going to go for right now, and he's on a razor's edge, because Vipers are just about to hit the battlefield, and we also have Lurkers on the horizon. Trap still has about a minute or so, though, where these units can be very impactful. But as soon as the Vipers start abducting the Immortals, the Disruptors... Like, imagine this army without the Robo units. It's pretty pathetic. Prism going around. Problem for Trap here is that he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know how far along those Vipers are. He may have had a glimpse of the Hive, but I don't think so. We can have a little bit of a peek. No, he did see the Hive finishing up. So he knows at the very least that the potential for Vipers is here. He's looking around the map right now, but he's really just inviting the Zerg to come and fight off creep. Yeah, he's throwing a party, and he's hoping that Shin is gonna show up. Shin has been invited to many parties before, though, and he's not taking it. Alright. So, we are gonna get to the next stage of this matchup. And it involves lurkers, and apparently this time around, also a fleet beacon. Now, yep. The overstate is welcome. Trap said, hey, you want to come to the... One too many times, right? And then Shin ultimately decided to abduct a few of the units. Recall will once again save a lot of troops. One Stalker is like, those were my friends. Oh, he actually lives. I thought he was going to sacrifice himself. We do have Storm available once more, though. And here goes Trap with his defense. Is it good enough? I think it should be. He defended against Dark with much less units against much more Zerg. Okay. Ooh, I was wondering why we were not making a second Stargate. So it's a single Stargate into a fleet beacon just for the mothership core. So he wants to fight this with a ground-based army. Like, the mothership is really an addition to a ground-based army in particular. It's like the cherry on top, you know? It's good with Skytles too, obviously, but... It's kind of nice to be able to cloak, and the time warp also is really good at forcing those lurkers to reposition. Honestly, you may just fight this right now. Yeah, those lurkers, completely unprotected. We do have some blinding clouds coming in right now, but the Immortals, trying to live up to their name, they decide to step forward. Trap is forced to retreat right now, up with his back against the wall. He needs to try and deal with his army right here, right now, because there is no way for him to get out of here. And I think he may have overstayed his welcome, as Shin collapsed right on top of all of those units. Zealots are going around the map as well. Bunch of them in the main base should be able to be pushed away. Lurker then gets targeted for a bit, but... Okay. Here's the Mama ship. There she is. Isn't she pretty? Most expensive unit that Protoss can produce. Other than, I guess, a carrier with full interceptors. The spellcaster control from Trap has been really good. Yeah, I'm trying to pinpoint what it is. I feel like there are still, like... This is just a little mispositioning over here. Ooh, the cloaking field gets used. There's no detection. Shin doesn't have detection. He didn't expect the Mama ship to show up, so he can't see the army that's underneath the ship.
Mutation complete.
Oh, no! Oh, that's Shin. Yeah, we knew that. Shin is playing with the Diva announcer pack. He's been doing that for years. It's scientifically proven to be the worst announcer pack, by the way. Yeah, they've done that research. You're all out of minerals, but there's plenty of rocks. I hate that one. All right, well, there goes Mama. She saved the army once, and then she immediately died. Sacrificing herself for her children. I think that's beautiful. Roach counterattack in the bottom right corner. Nidus Worm inside of the main base. Okay. The Immortals in the meantime, though, just, all right, turn their guns onto the hatch and murder it. Roach is in the bottom right, by the way, got cleaned up relatively easily. Nidus Worm is gonna get shut down, but a new one will be built. Here's Recall once again. Trap happy to use Recall. Most Protoss players don't really use Recall very much. Like, they use Recall as like a last-ditch effort, right? Like a, okay, I guess I have to resort to Recall. Almost like they're a little ashamed of it. Well, that is a bit suboptimal. A lot of units actually still almost go down here. One Archon at the very least fell. The Dark Templar was not too far behind it either. Okay. This is turning into a very dynamic match. Honestly, though, I am finding more room for improvement for Trap than I do for Shin, which is pretty exciting, because Protoss hasn't really been winning a lot of tournaments over the last few years. There's a lot of easy improvements that Trap can make, quote-unquote easy at least, whereas Shin is, you know, playing at like 98% efficiency is what it seems. And he may very well be losing the game. Like, we're once again in a very similar situation as the games against Dark. Great feedbacks there. Is there enough, though, for Shin to defend? This Protoss army is deep onto creep. He did have some energy on the Viper left over, apparently, to do a feedback, or an abduction, rather. After the feedbacks, though, there wasn't much. Reinforcing Immortals show up. We do need a detection, but, yep, there's the Observer coming in. Now the carriers are coming. I know there are some massive Trap fans out there. He may very well be the next great Protoss to look for, man. GG. Ghost River is gonna be the next game in this best of 3 series. I kind of feel like we have now had 3 games back to back to back where Trap is in a situation where he's like, okay, you know what, screw all of this, I'm grabbing my army and I'm gonna go across the map. And every time it's worked out so far. He almost seems a little bit surprised himself as well. I don't think in a single game so far it was actually his decision to go across the map and then, you know, fight at that point in time. It was more or less just, okay, well, I have been forced into this scenario. I guess this is what we're gonna go ahead and do. Well, it worked out every single time so far. Yeah, the Sentry control and the High Templar control in particular has been really good. I like it. We just need to cross the T's, dot the I's. Dot the T's, cross the I's. Whatever you like. Tighten up the game a little bit more. And I guess Trap would be able to be in control of his own fate a little bit better. But overall, I mean, we can see that there is a lot of potential. I mean, going 3-0 so far against the top-ranked Korean Zergs is a pretty good example. Yeah, I think that's all right. Yeah, I would say that's decent. Let's see. Obviously, you're never gonna play a perfect game, right? Like that's the goal for any StarCraft player out there. At least any human StarCraft player out there. I have seen Serral play close to perfect several times, and it looks scary. Actually, we did see some MaxPax games recently too, where he was going up against Zerg. I think it was actually MaxPax versus Dark, if I'm not mistaken, where I looked at some of those games and I could quite literally not find an improvement for Protoss. Those are the matches that give me nerd chills. Anyways, so far, perfection for both. Nah, I guess even in a perfect game, there's still little things you could optimize, right? But at this point, we are probably within 3 minerals or so of perfection. The real problem, of course, is playing near perfect consistently, right? If you can play at 100% in like 1 out of 7 games, and the other games are at like, I don't know, 85% efficiency, that's not great. You want to probably aim for like 98% efficiency every single game. At least if you're a tournament player. Just much easier said than done. I notice in my own games that my daily variance is pretty great. Like some days I play substantially better than others. And usually it is due to like things that are outside of my own control in a way. Like say for example I don't sleep well, or I'm not properly hydrated, or I've had too much or too little caffeine, or I don't know, life gets stressful. There's a lot of circumstances that make the game more or less difficult to play. Yeah, I guess a lot of that is within your control. Just easier said than done, you know? I'm sure there are players out there that, like, try and optimize everything, right? They will try and have the perfect sleep schedule and the perfect hydration and the perfect exercise, and they consume only the greatest foods that would put their, like, right? They're trying to optimize everything. But then I also think of some players, there is about 0% chance that Dark lives like that, right? I don't think Dark schedules anything to that level at all, ever. Like, ever since Dark had a baby, he seems to be playing better. How does that make any sense? His sleep schedule's gotta be terrible right about right now. Anyways. StarCraft as a reflection of life. You gotta live your life like an Excel spreadsheet in order to be good at the game. That at least seems to be the approach of many of the pros out there. Alrighty. Twilight Council once again. Triple hedge play again here for Shin. So far, our Protoss has gotten, well, 1 kill just now. Which means that life is a little bit better than it was in the previous game. So what exactly are we going to be able to achieve this time around? Is it going to be Glaives again? I wouldn't mind just seeing Blink. I think Blink would be kind of fun, because we would arrive at a more No, it's once again Glaives. Trap is loving his Glaive Adepts. So Adepts with Glaives, by the way, just have more attack speed. So this is just a flat attack speed buff. It basically gives the Adepts a, like, Stimpack sort of attack speed, which is nice and all, but they're still very much so an early mid-game unit at best. Generally speaking, they fall off pretty quickly, so there's like a window where Adepts are really good, but then as soon as the Zerg army gets big enough, they just sort of fall and don't deal damage. They're also specifically very good against units like Lings and Hydras and stuff, but they kind of suck against Roaches, which is usually what the Zerg mid-game army is all around, or all based around. So for now, it's going to be Lings, Drones, and Queens. And actually, you know what? No, we do have a Roach Warren. Okay, I thought for a second he had skipped it. Not quite the case. Gonna try and get the kill on this expansion. Okay. He's gonna get it. Can we kill the drone? What? Shit, that was too quick, no? Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, maximum value. That was no cancel, that was a kill. There must have been a bit of a skirmish in the middle of the map as well, because many of those Adepts are bruised, and clearly Shin was not paying attention right there to the expansion. Now suddenly the Adepts are sneaking in. Roaches are coming, but they're a little too late. Trap managed to deny all vision on the attack path. So Shin did not actually see these units until they were already pretty much on creep, forced to react to them at that point. So far though, the crisis management from the Zerg has been excellent. Not really losing that many drones, at least when I started that sentence. Now we're already all the way up to double digits. Yeah, and there's a clear attack plan here for Trap. We start with Oracles, then we go into Adepts, and then we follow it up with a Stalker Immortal push. We use Sentries as well. I think he's gonna warp in Sentry soon. There we go. We use Sentries as well for Force Fields. And we have like a triple layered attack. Alright, well Shin is apparently the one now who feels obligated to go for an all-in. He's bringing everything he's got across the map, but Trap already has Sentries. I mean, the Queens are scary. We're gonna even make like an Overlord highway, I guess. The creep is gonna hit, and it's gonna make life a little bit harder, but I've got a feeling that the longer Shin waits, the easier this is going to be for Trap to defend. His income is now at about 800 resources more a minute. So that's like 8 Zealots more a minute, right? That's substantial. Trap's army is also exactly what he's looking for, especially if he gets another Immortal out. Yeah, the Force Fields are buying so much time. Shin forced to go into the rocks right now, but look at how much time he's buying. Trap is already back up to the supply count of the Zerg. Army supply, though, for Shin is still bigger. But this is a Protoss army that is ready for a timing attack. Like, at least almost, you know? Like, when Blink finishes, it's ready to go across the map itself. And now he's got the luxury of defending at home with all of the static defense as well. Is there enough for Shin? I don't think so. Nah, this is fizzling out. This is taking too long. Trap has got plenty of army remaining. Shin does not have the economy to support this for much longer. Blink is seconds away from finishing up right now, and most of the Stalkers are still alive. And just like that, Trap manages to go 4-0 against the highest ranked Korean Zergs. Huh.